Welcome back to the PWC channel for this season's Division 2 Power Rankings, aka Division 2 will be called Blackthorn Division. So it will be the Blackthorn Division Power Rankings. And what I'm gonna do is I am gonna rank these teams in order from last to first and then place every team after I've gone through it on a tier list, ranking it from 1 to 10. And yeah, but also, as I said, ranking them in order, but also on the tier list so that you have a feeling for how I really think these teams are because, and it's a little bit cliche to say, but I'm gonna say it anyway because it's absolutely true in this case. There's not a single bad team in this league. Like you can definitely tell that this is the second tier of coaches, so everyone has got a lot of experience already, and everyone knows how to build a team. And yeah, there's really not a bad team on there, and that will also reflect in the rankings I will give. And yeah, that's just something to keep in mind. Just because you may be ranked lower amongst the other coaches, it does not mean that your team is bad in any way. I will try to reason through my rankings as good as I can with my very limited capabilities and yeah, just try my best and hopefully you will find this fun. And yeah. And yeah, the second caveat on this obviously would be that this is just a personal opinion, yada, yada, yada. You know it. You are not babies anymore. I think it is very clear that, yeah, I can definitely be wrong about stuff, and I am frequently. And yeah, with that in mind, let us commence with the ranking. And unfortunately, someone had to be last. And yeah, so our number 16 this season, the worst team in the league, in my estimation, will be Master Baguette, whatever. And yeah, this has nothing to do with me not being too high on the French. Like I have nothing against Baguette itself. It's just this team has some issues, in my opinion. One of them being obviously the gimmick of this league is the signature, and the signature is a big part of each team. And yeah, I don't know. I think this is some sort of meme that he's the golem guy. That's what Gil told me. But yeah, I can only rank what I see. So golem is the worst signature in the league, and it's not close. So yeah, I mean, with Terra, every mon can do work somewhat, definitely. Even Golem probably, but I don't even know if it's got Terra Blast. By the way, if it doesn't, then it's even worse. But yeah, even then, it's just slow. It's got bulk on one end of the spectrum, but not the other. It's got physical attack, maybe. It can put up stealth rocks. Like you can do some things with it. It's got sucker punch, which is neat, but yeah, honestly, it's too slow, too frail on the special side, and yeah, it's just compared to some of the other mons, it's just not enough. It is definitely something that keeps the team down a little bit. Then what I also noticed about this team is it's not really the fastest team. The fastest mon is Mousehold at space 111, I think, which these days is not very fast. And then you're looking around and thinking, well, what else does have speed? I mean, there's Mew, base 100. Um, yeah, that's pretty much it. You've got Mousehold base 110, Mew at base 100. Then you got the speed boosting Blaziken, which I will come to the positives later. But yeah, that's obviously it does speed boost, but I mean that's not equal to having speed, right? You still have to protect first, which is something the opponent can abuse, especially in a higher tier league like this one. So yeah, that's definitely another down. The other point against this team, it also has quite the flying weakness. I've noticed. The only resist to flying being this these two thingies right here. And that brings us to number 15. And this one I can tell is going to be controversial. It really is. It feels a little weird to me to even do this. But in my opinion, the second worst quote unquote team in the league is the team Jersey Dusknor, coached by Moonlight. And yeah, if you've known PWC, if you've known your PWC, you know that Moonlight has a huge history in the league. I don't know why it says 0 chips in here. That's a mistake. That's not true. He did win the Season 5 Division 2. He's also a former Division 1 semi-finalist, made finals 2 times over his PWC career. One time, obviously, when he won Season 5, and then I think also in Season 5 in the off-season event where he also made finals. And yeah, pretty much always made playoffs when he competed. And the only reason he even is in Division 2 is because he took a step back from playing in recent years and is not as much in the meta as he once was. So yeah, he's a huge threat, I think, and he might become one of the people to beat in this league, at least in my estimation. There are like 3 people I have on my list that should be considered favorites, and he's one of them. But his team is not helping, I can tell you that much, at least in my opinion. So where should we start? We have the signature here, Houndstone. And I really don't understand Houndstone as a signature. Like, granted, I don't know that much about the mon to begin with, but like it doesn't have its broken move. It's not the scariest thing in the world. I get it has some bulk with Fluffy, and it can Terra. Obviously, every mon is good with Terra. And it is supported by the potential Sand Rush it can have. But is it really that scary? Like, what does it have for offensive moves now that the super broken move is not available? So it will have to resort to Terra Blast and be some sort of Terra type from week to week. It can't set up rocks, it can't remove rocks, it can't really play that many roles. I have to say I'm definitely not a believer in Houndstone, so that's yeah, that's something I noticed that I did not like. Another thing that I noticed is his high tiers are these 3 here: Walking Wake, Ogrepon, and Tyranitar. And while these are decent mons, when you compare it to some of the other high tiers in the league, it is a little underwhelming, to be honest. Like Walking Wake, it is good. It has good coverage. It has good moves, good special attack, obviously, but it can't really set up, so it's not that scary, and most bulky waters can just deal with it. The Tyranitar is mainly there to set up sand. It's not as a Tyranitar itself. It's rarely going to be a setup sweeper. It can obviously run Dragon Dance, and it does have strong attack and all that, but it still has terrible typing. All of these downsides that T-Tar always had, it still has those. So yeah, that's something to keep in mind. Also, the Ogrepon. I think Ogrepon is really strong. It definitely is. It had solid speed tier as well. But yeah, it's just as a high tier. I would understand it as like the number 3 high tier when you have 2 really scary things above it. But I think this is just a little underwhelming compared to some of the other things. A big fan of Iron Thorns and the Fesandipiti as well, which is nice. But and there we come to another downside of this team. His high tiers are not going that well together. If you look at his team, if you just take the top 6, like he wanted to go all out high tiers, EQ much. Where's what does he do? He doesn't have any answer to EQ. You just spam EQ and that's it. Like his defensive stuff, if you want to call it that, Fisandipiti, Iron Crowns, T-Tar, it doesn't switch into EQ. And then you go further and then, oh, there's Heracross Mega. Obviously, it's a good mon. It's bulky, but is it really an EQ switch in? I don't know. Quagsire, maybe. It's got bulk, but it's not a resist, definitely not. And then you end up here at Rotom, Fan, and Appleton as the only EQ resists on the team. And it feels like that's a little bit limiting in that sense. You have to run one of these terrible mons to be able to have anything against EQ, because it's not like this team is so overwhelming that it doesn't matter what he has in resists. Like, it definitely matters on this team to have resists and to be able to switch into stuff. So yeah, having such a overwhelming ground weakness on the top end is just not good for me. And the same thing, by the way, is true for hazard removal. If you look at this team, top 6 once again, top 7 once again, top 8 once again, top 9, nothing, no removal. Where's his removal? His removal is Rotom, Fan, and Komala. So same thing again. You have to go to the bottom 3 to have an EQ switch in, or a EQ resist, really, and hazard removal. Yeah, I mean, that's just an issue. He's limiting himself to be able to be forced to bring one of those, and yeah, that's gonna be an issue, I think. And yeah, another thing I noticed is that his strongest mons, Walking Wake, T-Tar, many of them invite in also Heracross, all the stuff that's really scary offensively, which Heracross obviously definitely is, but all of these mons invite in fairy types, so they always could be stopped by similar mons. So that's something to also keep in mind. Yeah. But yeah, then again, on the positives, obviously the high tiers aren't bad. Like, it's just compared to some of what the others have, that it's a little underwhelming. He can definitely make it work, especially since he's such a good player. And obviously, Sand can be oppressive with the speed. I just don't know enough about Hearthstone. I don't think it's that scary, but maybe I'm just wrong. We will see. I'm very excited to see how he does with this team. Being, as I said, Moonlight is such a strong player, so I would not be surprised if he makes it work somehow. But I'm not a fan. I will rank him as a 6 out of 10 team here. Still not a terrible rating, but as I said, compared to some of the others, it's not the strongest one. All right, and that brings us to our number 14, which will be Barney 2005. And let me just move over to his team here. Team consists of Chinchino, Annihilate, Iron Treads, Raging Bolt, Bulu, Suicune, Incineroar, Crobat, Articuno, Abomasnow, Galmega, and Crustle. And yeah, this time let me start with some of the positives. So first of all, this team does have good bulk. Like, many of these mons are quite bulky. Annihilate is bulky, Iron Treads, Raging Bolt, very bulky, Bulu also bulky, Suicune obviously, Incineroar, even Crobat can be bulky, Articuno on the special side, Abomasnow has good stats and defenses. So the entire team does have bulk. It's just not a stall team. Like, most of this doesn't have recovery, and it also doesn't have a wish supporter. So a wish supporter would have been really nice with this team. Because yeah, as I said, that's just something that these guys would appreciate, but he doesn't have it, so there's that. Then obviously the high tiers once again. I will say right now, it's also another case of these are good mons, but compared to some of the others, they are not that scary. Like, he does only have two mons in the tiers that are restricted with Iron Treads and Annihilate. And then he's got some 13-point mons. But do you really think these are that scary? Maybe the Raging Bolt, people are really high on that because obviously it hits quite hard. It's got the Sucker Punch, which is not that great, but that's a topic for another day. And yeah, it's bulky, obviously, and it can calm mind. But like Bulu, Suicune, yeah, they are not that scary. They just aren't. Neither is Crobat, Incineroar. Articuno Galar without Terra, it really needs Terra to do anything to Steel types. So, and Steel types are so common. Abomasnow Omega is not a Pokemon. It just isn't, and neither is Crustle. So you can just they are not gonna do anything. Maybe I don't know, does this get Aurora Veil? Maybe. But even then, this team is just not immediately threatening enough to make anything of screens, even if he does have them. So yeah, once Annihilate gets going, it can become pretty scary, but it still has to get going. And Chinchino as a signature, it is fast, and people are really high on it now that it's got the triple axle and tidy up, of course. So that's definitely a plus, but it's still too frail. I've never really seen it sweep. Like most of the time, people end up bringing like some technician set with 5 hit moves, which can be boosted then by stab, which is not bad, definitely not. It's not the worst signature, but I'm not really on that hype train so much. Once again, the entire lower half of his team, starting by Incineroar, is Rock's weak, so that's something to also keep in mind. I think, yeah, I think he just brings his, like the team pretty much stops at Crobat. He has 9 mons. Is that 9? Yeah, no, that's 8. He has 8 mons. Yeah, that's not ideal. Yeah, that's pretty much all I have to say. I mean, the speed tiers are okay on this team. He's got Crobat, he's got Chinchino, then he's got Iron Treads. So that's fine. Um, Hazard game is also okay. He's got the Iron Treads for removal. He's got Crobat for removal. He's got Annihilate and Iron Treads for setup. So that's fine. Obviously Crustle as well, but that doesn't count. So he doesn't have many options, but he has good options. So that's something he has going for him. And that means that he will be another 6 out of 10 Mon. Let me just and yeah, there we go. These are the teams so far. We just went through Barney, and yeah, that's where I will have these teams right now. I think these are all 6 out of 10 for me. They are not bad, but they have some issues, and I think just compared to the other teams, that's where I have them. And with this, we are gonna move on to our number. What's that now? That's number 13 out of 16. And that will be another veteran of the league, one of the most successful players in the league's history, actually. It is SMO. So I really feel like I'm blasphemic already here. Just shitting on all these legends of the league. But yeah, I'm not really. It's just that these teams are a little bit lackluster compared to the others, but they are still fine. His team is Espeon, Meowscarada, Infernape, Starmie, Togekiss, Kleavor, Flygon, Riffafroom, Manectric, Mega, Comfy, and Sableye. So yeah, first of all, we got Espeon. That's a very safe pick. Like people are very high on Espeon. I'm always told that, oh, how can you even have this legal for Terra? It's so good, but it really isn't. It's fine. It's not a bad one, but it's really it is fine. It's a safe pick. It's got a good speed tier. It's got good attack. It definitely can make use of Terra. It's got a good ability as well, but it can't really fill that many roles. It can attack. It can maybe baton pass if it really needs to. It can wish barely, maybe, I don't know. But most of the time, it's just going to be attacking. It's going to be choiced a lot of the time. It's going to be calm mind some of the time, or a lot of the time as well. And yeah, that's pretty much it. It's never going to be physical. It's never going to do much else. And yeah, that's really it. It's a safe pick. It's a good pick. It's really fast. And speaking of fast, this entire team is pretty fast. Looking at it, you've got Meowscarada, you've got Infernape, good speed, Starmie as well, you've got Manectric Mega. So this team is really fast, and this team is really nimble in the sense that, Jesus Christ, the entire team is just a pivot. Like they all pivot around. This thing does, this thing does. this thing doesn't. But this does, this does, this does, this does, this does, and this can even baton pass. So yeah, you're just basically fast and somewhat strong, and you pivot around a lot. And how can this be bad? It just can't be bad. It is solid. So in that sense, and you can definitely be trapped in a vortex against this team. But then we come to some of the downsides. So while these mons are very fast and they can definitely, once they have momentum, they can keep it up, he doesn't really have that one target that he wants to pivot into. You could maybe say Cleavor, but yeah, which can obviously then come up with the Stone Axe and put up Stealth Frogs, which makes all this pivoting even more annoying. Maybe that's the thought behind this team. But normally when you have so many pivots, you would expect something crazy like Nidoking or Hooper Unbound, something crazy that really nukes the opponent. That's your target to pivot into, or even we're talking about signatures. You would have something like Jan Mega would be amazing with this team, maybe just blow something away. But he doesn't really have it. Like all the stuff hits quite hard, but not insane. It's also not most of the time gonna be that setup heavy. I don't think. So yeah, the problem with all this is this team has zero physical defense. It's really weak on the physical defensive side. Like you have Togekiss, which can run some physical defense. I mean, with some imagination, you could run off some of these mons defensive, like Infernape, Starmie, maybe Flygon even. This thing has Intimidate, but I really think that the moment he loses momentum, he has a huge issue. Like that's going to be, he really has to keep it up. It's really hard for him to get it back once he loses it. And I think that's going to get him in trouble in many games. We have already seen it the first time earlier today. And yeah, that's something I definitely have on my radar for weaknesses. Then he also doesn't have a normal type, and he's got a really bad ghost weakness. Just looking at it, I think his only resist is Meowscarada, which just doesn't count as a resist. He's also pretty fairy weak. His only resist is this Rivavroom, which I mean, it's a Rivavroom. The moment you have ground weakness, it's not a resist anymore, and then you can just spam your fairy moves. So yeah, that's also something to keep in mind. What else do I have for weaknesses here? Oh yeah, obviously he does have two fairy types, and I kind of wonder why. He does have Togekiss, and then he does have Comfey, and I don't really understand what these two mons are doing here separately. Like, they're both fairies, they're both somewhat bulky, they can set up in different ways, granted, but they can both defog. What are these doing here? Like, Comfey's not that cheap, Togekiss neither, so I really think he could lose one of these and improve his team a little bit. For example, get a real steel type that's not called Rivavroom, because without Terra, I don't think this thing is that great. So he could really get a better steel type, I think, for if he drops Rivavroom and Comfey, for example, or even Rivavroom and Togekiss. He could get a real steel type and then a poison type, maybe some other poison type. So yeah, that's just some thoughts I've had. And yeah, overall, I just think that this team is not the best one around. And yeah, that's it for SMO. Let me just place him on the tier list right here. And yeah, once again, definitely not a bad team, just a team that has some issues, which is enough to put it into spot number 13 on my list here. All right, and that brings us to the first team that I have one tier higher up. I was really torn between putting him into tier 6 or 7. I ended up putting him into 7 out of 10 tier, and that is Mimiko coaching the Midnight Nightmares, a complete newcomer to the league. His team consists of Yanmega, Tapu Fini, Sneasler, Thunderous, Therian, Volcanion, Hooper, Umbreon, Escavalier, Donphan, Quillfish, Hisui, and Diplin. So, first things first. Yanmega is insane as a signature. Absolutely insane. Probably one of the best things you can have, but obviously the team also needs to be built around that a little bit. Yanmega is so scary. It can either be, it does get Terra Blast, it can either be a speed boost sweeper late game, obviously, but I think even better, you can run it pretty much every week, is the Tinted Lens choice spec set. You do not switch into Terra Flying Tinted Lens choice specs. No team does. There are no resists for it. Most of the time, people have 4-time resists for bugs, so it is a little harder to run Terra Bug choice specs Tinted Lens, but Terra Flying is just insane. I had it last season. It was so free every week. Like, my team was terrible last season, and the only reason I did even somewhat decently was having this Yanmega, because it just is a free, like, it gets 2 kills every week. You just have to bring it in when it outspeeds someone and it is in range, and there are no switch-ins. There just aren't. You just get a kill, and yeah, that's just huge for him. But I will come to some of that later still. Then we get the high tiers here. We have Fini, Sneasler, and Thunderous Therian. Not a fan that much. Like, I like Fini personally. I think it's a really good mon, but it's not the scariest thing in the world, in my opinion. The same goes for his other high tiers. Obviously they are high tiers, they are good mons, but as far as high tiers go, I'm not that afraid of Sneasler in a vacuum. Like, most of the time you just have a good poison type, maybe. It's not that strong. It has an annoying move with the Dire Claw, but yeah, I'm not sure. Thunderous, it's not that fast. It's really, really strong, but it doesn't have much for ground types most of the time. So there's that. His entire team is really specially oriented in the offensive stats. Yanmega is, Fini is, Thunderous, Volcanion, Hooper. He doesn't have much physical offense apart from the Sneasler. He does have his Cavalier, which is which does have really high attack stat, but it's too slow to make use of it. Another downside I see with this team is that he has got many monsters that are somewhat bulky, but, and that's really the big issue I see, is this team does not pivot around enough to make use of Yanmega. Like, Yanmega is amazing with a team like SMOs, where you can pivot around, where you can get free switches for it. But this team, what are your switches? You switch into Fini, you switch into this thing is somewhat bulky, you switch into Umbreon, Escavalier maybe, Donphan, this thing. All of these things don't really pivot. They are just dead ends. So it's going to be really hard for him to get the Yanmega in. Maybe he can do sometimes when he U-turns with Sneasler maybe, or Volt Switch with Thunderous, which is kind of hard because most of the time the answer is going to be a ground type. So yeah, it looks like he really has to work to get Yanmega in. So he has to make double switches. I don't know, he can bring it in after something dies. But yeah, that's something to keep in mind. And also, this team, like many other teams in the league, that's going to be a theme as we go through this, is pretty flying weak as well. His only resist is the Thunderous, which is not really ideal, as Thunderous is just not that bulky. You don't really want it to be your switch into anything. And yeah, like, he does have bulk, and he does have a good wish passer, but yeah, I think this team has some issues, but it is still a pretty good team. And that is why we are gonna rank it here in rank number 7, or not rank number 7, but tier 7. And with that, we are gonna move on to the next coach, which will be our number 11. And number 11 this season will be Harmony, our season 8 number 1 seed in the 3rd division. Harmony, who moved up for the first time into Division 2 last season, where he did not make playoffs, but he still had a decent enough season. So yeah, he gets another shot. And he has this team. He has Scorch, Palafin, Scizor Mega, Weavile, Clodsire, Pawmod, Tinkaton, Decidueye, whatever, Altaria, and Colossal. So yeah, first things first, obviously we go again with the signature. It is a really interesting pick. Definitely. I don't think we have seen that as a signature. At least if we have, we haven't seen it many times. I think the appeal is that you can tear out of a terrible typing with the bug fire into something better. Which, yeah, while that is true, it's kind of hard to justify for me having this thing because it can't really fill that many roles. It can't set up any hazards. It's not versatile like some of the others are. So yeah, what makes it versatile is the Terra, which is not like that's not a selling point. Every signature can Terra. So I just think it's a little bit underwhelming compared to some of the others. But a huge plus for Harmony are the high tiers, definitely. Like if you have 3 so scary high tiers that go kind of well with each other as well, your team just isn't bad anymore. If you have Palafin, Scizor Mega, and Weavile on one team, your team is not bad. Why is it not bad? Palafin and Scizor are so threatening and they are so good at pivoting around that you are gonna get free switches for Weavile. And yeah, there's really not much you can do against it. So that's makes it good enough already. Then he's got some bulk. He's got the Clodsire, which is going to make it hard to sweep him. Yeah, this team is just hard to sweep in general. You have so much strong priority here with Scizor, Palafin, and Weavile, and then you got the Unaware with Clodsire. So yeah, that's something to keep in mind. It is a little bit ground weak, just looking at it. You have to go down to Altaria for a real. I guess the Decidueye is a resist as well, but yeah, it's really just the 8th mon is the first one to. Not even. It's the 8th mon that is the first resist to ground. Yeah, that's like the old Moonlight issue again. You have to go to the low tiers to really have a switch in, unless you want to restrict yourself with the Terra you can run on Scorch. So yeah, that is something. Then I have to say, to go to some of the things I think are a little annoying with this team, is that his team, the entire team, or the entire good part of the team, is struggling with bulky waters a little bit. Palafin, Scizor, Weavile, none of them are even Scorch pre-Terra. They don't really appreciate bulky waters that much. I guess this has Power Whip at least, but yeah, that's something to keep in mind. The Clodsire also, obviously it can run water absorb, but most of the time you want to have the Unaware. So yeah, I think this might be a potential issue for this team. Also, this team is entirely physical. Physical, 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 physical. Mostly physical, could be special. Doesn't count. Yeah, it just doesn't count with the low tiers there. Too bad. So the entire team is physical. So that's something to keep in mind as well. I think there are ways you can prepare for this team to not be as scared anymore. If you know that the threat, like the Decidueye and whatever this thing is called, they are just not threats. You don't have to prepare for special threats that much against this team, and you can still be fine. So yeah, that's something to keep in mind as well. That those are my thoughts at Harmony's team. Oh yeah, also the speed tiers are a little bit weird with this team. He has Weavile, and what else? then it goes down to base 100 with Palafin. So that's a little weird. I guess his reasoning is going to be that he has so much priority that speed tiers don't really matter that much for him. And yeah, I can definitely, this is definitely, like, we are now in definitely not a bad team range, but still, I have listed my weaknesses for this. That means that he is gonna be our number 11. And yeah, with that, we are finally entering the top 10 teams of this list. And team number 10 is gonna be, no, where is he? It's gonna be Winter Bob. So Winter Bob, our last season debutant, he was so strong. Why did these stats have some mistakes in them? He has one final. He was in the off-season final in season 9 against Starvin Pig, where he lost in the random battle tournament. Yeah, he just came into the league, made it due to this strong off-season opponent performance last season. He made it to Division 2 immediately, where he started off really strong and just lost momentum towards the end of the season. Made playoffs, I think dropped out in round 1, and now he's back for more. With the following team, he's got Hitmonlee, Roaring Moon, Slowking Galar, Rillaboom, Mandibuzz, Arcanine, Magnezone, Bramblegast, Ordino Mega, and Armaldo. So yeah, first things first, Hitmonlee as a Terra captain. I'm not sure, honestly, what I think about this Terramon. First of all, I don't know, does it have Terra Blast? I'm not sure. Obviously, Terra Blast is always a huge plus. I'm gonna assume it has it. Yeah. I mean, you can, it's gonna be Unburden. It's gonna be maybe Bandit sometimes, which can be really scary. Obviously, it could be Terra fighting and just be insanely strong with it, but most of the time it's gonna be Unburden. And it is going to be something that this team really needs to make work, because this team does not have that many offensive threats. Most of the team is just bulky. So Slowking Galar, Mandibuzz, Swampert, Arcanine, these are mostly going to be bulky, Ordino. And when you talk about win cons, you don't really have that much. You have Roaring Moon, you have Rillaboom, you have the Hitmonlee. That's mainly what the offense is revolving around. And then, yeah, I mean, in draft you can do lots of shenanigans, obviously, but yeah. And so this is really what this team revolves around, is trying to make one of these 3 months work and win for you. And what I notice is that some of these mons struggle. Like I'm pointing at Rillaboom right now because it is the most obvious with Rillaboom. He really struggles with flying types, and this team does not deal with flying types very well. It's like the only resist is Magnezone. Magnezone is really easy to get by with coverage since it is 4 times weak to ground. So you can't really, a lot of the time you're not going to be able to switch into a flying type move with it, because the EQ is going to come afterwards. And yeah, so you lure them in with Rillaboom. You also potentially lure them in with Hitmonlee. Obviously there is Terra, so not really, but yeah, it's just a weakness I can see with this team potentially. Then he's got hazard removal, which I've noticed is not the best with this team. He only has, quote unquote, Mandibuzz to defog, and then he has spin on Bramblegast, and I'm not gonna count Armaldo because you don't want to bring Armaldo to match ever. And yeah, so that's a little bit shallow, I think. Obviously, Mandibuzz, it can afford to run defog most of the time, but you still limit the move slot a little bit because you're going to be forced to bring it a lot of the time. But yeah, Then again, for the positives, you do have good win cons like Hitmonlee, Roaring Moon. They are most of the time going to be a win cons. Then Slowking Galar is just a menace defensively. It's really scary to deal with most of the time. It does well. It's a good pairing with Mandibuzz. I like it. They really complement each other quite well. They also pivot around both. So this thing with the stupid hail move that it can switch around with, and this thing does get U-turn. So yeah, it's definitely a good team. I know that I also Arcanine is a defensive mon that pivots with teleport. So yeah, looking at it, might have been even higher, I think. Still, I ranked this as 7 out of 10. Oh yeah, by the way, Hazard Ceras, it does have Swampert, and that's it. But Swampert is really good at doing it, so yeah, I mean, it also has Armaldo, but as I said, Armaldo doesn't count. Maybe you can even make Ordino Mega, which is obviously a terrible Mega, but maybe with this team it could work with Arcanine and Swampert wishing them up. Yeah. Honestly, this team is really solid. I think just looking at it again, maybe it could have been higher, but since I had made up my mind earlier after studying it for 5 minutes, this is where we will rank it and move on to the next team. The next team being a newcomer. No, it's not a newcomer to the PWC. He has been around before. He has been around in Season 5 one time as a replacement. Hailing from the ETA, it is our friend Mike Haley and the Toronto Torterras. As I said, coming back after his replacement stint in Season 5, where I don't even remember if he did well, but he did something, I guess. And he brings the following team: the Decidueye Hisui, Chi-Yu, Iron Bundle, Deoxys Defense, Nidoking, Grimmsnarl, Noivern, Fortress, Tauros, Banette, Mega, and Pikachu. Alright, so what to say about this team? Signature Decidueye Hisui. It's a decent signature. It's not the best one because it's not really that fast. It's not really that scary. It has good attacking stats. It can make use of Terra for sure, getting rid of the 4x weakness. It can defog, it can pivot. So those are some good roles that it fills. Yeah, it's just a solid pick. And that's really going to be a theme throughout this team. I just think this team is built really solidly. Like, unfortunately, I don't have the thingy typing overview with me right now, but I think this team is built pretty much by the books. Like if you look at speed tiers, the speed tiers are really nice with this team. Like it goes step by step with a really high top end with Iron Bundle, a really high speed tier. Then you go down to Noivern at like 370-ish. Then you got Tauros at 350. Then where do we go next? Then we go to base 100 here. And yeah, it just goes down step by step. Which is really solid, really by the book. Then you got some defensive mons like Deoxys Defense, which can pivot with teleport into some of these threats. You got Fortress, which can also pivot. And yeah, the main part of this team are obviously these two high tiers that are going to be threatening as hell. What I notice is that all of his threatening stuff is pretty much specially offensive. You got Chi-Yu, you got Iron Bundle, you got Nidoking, which is special like 90% of the time. You got Noivern. So yeah, I think the physical stuff like Grimmsnarl, what else is there? Fortress and Tauros is not that scary. The scariest physical attacker is probably going to be a Banette, which is a really solid pickup for 5 points. That's a really cheap value pickup. I don't know what Gil was smoking putting that there. It's like one of the few misplacements I feel that we have on the tier list. So yeah, that's something to keep in mind. So the high tiers, they are really strong. and they're really fast, at least Iron Butler is. But what I don't like about them is that they can't really do much. Like they have 4 or 5 moves that they can run, and they're gonna run every week. So that's one of the downsides of this team, is that you really know what's coming with these high tiers. So if you have ways to prep for it, you are definitely gonna prep for it, and there's not much that you can do about it. And in general, this team does not allow for that much creativity. Maybe with the signature a little bit. Nidoking has like 2 million coverage moves it can run. And yeah, Neuvern doesn't have much room for creativity. It's also always going to be a special attacker. Yeah, this thing can't really do much except do physical hits and do some shenanigans with Prankster maybe. And yeah, I'm not going to talk about the 4.1 here, even though it can hit quite hard. Yeah. So I think this team is really solid. It's really good, but it doesn't stand out one way or the other, and that's why I also rank it somewhere in the middle of the pack with 7 out of 10 points. Also, I should say this team doesn't really set up that much, which, I mean, that's neither here nor there. It does have screens, but it doesn't set up, which is weird to me. But yeah, anyway, still a really solid team. Where is Mike? Let's put him here. Wait, I have screwed up the order here, haven't I? Right. There goes the boomer trying to do something right. All right. Moving on to the next coach. And I already know that this one is going to be very controversial. Where are we at, by the way? This is... I don't even know. It's going to show on the screen probably, or not. Not sure yet how I'm going to do this. But the next coach is gonna be Fucko Lacko and the Sleeping Snorlaxes. And yeah, what can I even say about this team? This team is insane. It is just a team on steroids completely. And just he's got like what can you say about Fakolaku? He's always going for the most broken stuff in theory. Like he's looking at, okay, it's round 1. What is the most broken signature I can find? And he's looking at the tier list. He did it in the off-season event, and once again in the regular season now. People always think Jolteon is the most broken signature, and he picks it, of course. Then he goes round 2. He gets the Coco, and then, yeah, guess what? There are a bunch of new mons that are really strong that all benefit from this electric terrain. So why not go Coco, and why not pick a whole bunch of stuff that benefits from electric terrain? Hawlucha, Iron Jugulis, Iron Bowler. This entire team is on steroids, man. It's insane. It's insane, the offensive pressure he puts up with it. Like, these mons are all choice scarfed or banded without being locked into it. How Lucha gets it is stupid. Coco Lucha, it's nothing new. We all know what it does. And then he's like, well, why don't I just run rain on top of it as well? While we are at it. Jolteon also, it could run thunder with the rain. So can Coco. Then he's got obviously the Rain Sweeper. It's been around for ages. Kingdra, really cheap at 10 points. Maybe we should make it more expensive. Yeah, he's got that as well. It's just insane. The offensive pressure this team puts on people. So yeah, that's really it for the positive. It is the most offensively scary team in the league. There's really no question about it. He has so many threats that he can afford to be wasteful with them. Like, he doesn't have to be that patient either. Like, going Hawlucha turn 2, just setting up, well, does it matter? No, because I have like 4 other mons that are going to be either in the rain, sweeping, or be with the Quark Drive or whatever the ability is called. I've got the Terra Jolteon still. I've got Tapu Koko, which on its own can sweep some teams. Iron Boulder, yeah, what can you say? It's just insane. But yeah, that brings us to some of the downsides. Like this team just disregards entire I don't know, I can talk. Whatever. It doesn't, some things it just does not do. Like, for example, this team does not have a hazard game. I mean, I guess it has sticky webs and it has this thing to put up rocks. I don't know if this thing gets stealth rocks. Probably does. But yeah, is it gonna put up stealth rocks? Maybe. It's not, but it doesn't really have a hazard game that much. Then this team does not have a fairy resist, not a single one, which is really strange because your only defensive mon, which you have on the team, which is this Sableye Mega, and maybe you could count Pelipper as well. What is this Sableye Mega doing here? It's like it got lost in the woods and just found its way on this team and doesn't know why. It's just hiding behind its gem here and doesn't know what's going on. Like this doesn't fit on the team at all. This random defensive mon that maybe switches into a move, but then it just is stuck on the field and waits until the terrain is gone. And it on top of that, it invites in fairy types, which just click a move and then you don't have an answer for it. What is it doing there? It's just there to invite in your biggest weakness and stall out terrain. I don't get it, or rain, whatever. It's just wasting turns for you. What is it doing? It's your mega slot, dude. 12 points and you waste it for this? I don't understand. It's just making the team worse, not better. He also doesn't have a single rock resist on the entire team. Yeah, I don't know. It's probably the worst team defensively on in the league. Maybe, I don't know. It's up there. But it is the best team offensively. So yeah, it's hard to rank this team accurately. Like I said, you could make two rankings for it, and it could definitely easily be the number one offensive team in the league. But yeah, I think it's gonna be a bit hit or miss with some of the weaknesses it has, especially this thing. What is it doing there? It's honestly making the team worse, I think. But yeah, we will see as the season progresses how that will go. And he definitely gets some easy wins with this team, just overwhelming people. And yeah, that's gonna be it for Fako Lako. Where do we have him? Let's put him up there. Wait, do I even have them? Oh yeah, I have him in. Wait, did I? No, I didn't. I put him in tier 8 already. Yeah, just because this team is so scary that it's really, honestly, you can't put a team that has Coco and Rain and all these insane sweepers with it. It's just ridiculous. You can't put it in tier 7. So yeah, that's why I put it in the tier number 8, or 8 out of 10 is what I ranked him. And that is that. That brings us to the next in line on my list, and that will be Mini Ninny. Coaching the Unovan Melodies. So yeah, Mini Ninny does have Frostmoth as a signature, Great Tusk, Clefable, Gyarados Mega, Hydrapple, Entei, Cobalion, Kilowattrel, Araquanid, Weezing, and Giraffaric. And first of all, Frostmoth is a decent signature. It does get defog, it does get rid of its terrible typing. It has this insane ability where it resists every special move pretty much, or extra resist every special move, which is really solid. It is a good setup sweeper. The only thing it doesn't have is it doesn't have recovery, which you would want a really solid wish passer for it, which could benefit from. And yeah, I really like this top 4. This is a really good top 4 to me. Like great task, crazy mon. We all know it does everything. Good signature. Clefable really nice with great task and Gyarados and Frostmouth because it can wish all of them up. It can also pivot. It can do all types of things. It can set up hazards like this thing can. You have your removal here covered. You also have this thing you have to bring every week, so that's removal. You've got physical threats. You've got special threats. You've got an insane win con in Gyarados Mega, which is just really scary. And then obviously the team goes on with some solid mons as well. Hydrapple, Entei, they all go really well with each other. I'm a big fan of this top half of the team. Then you got Kilowattrel, which brings some speed into the team as well. Speed tiers are not the greatest, but they are solid enough. You also have Sticky Webs down there. And Wheezing, I think, is a really solid low tier pickup as well. And then, yeah, I mean, you've got Giraffric. So yeah, I think this team is just overall really solid. Let me just see what I have written down. What were the weaknesses of this team, in my opinion? Oh yeah, oh yeah. The weakness, some of the weakness of the team is this team doesn't have a flying resist. Like this is, as I said in the beginning, this is going to be a theme throughout this league. Is that many of these teams are just very flying weak, and so is this one. The only resist, quote unquote, being this Kilowattrel, which is not a resist because it's a Kilowattrel. And yeah, other than that, you just don't have a resist. So if you're talking about Brave Birds, it's not looking too great for this team. Um, does have good bulk on both ends, definitely. But yeah, Brave Bird Hurricane from really strong attackers, both of those could be issues for Mini Nini. So yeah, but other than that, I don't really have much bad things to say about this team. It's just really solid. As I said, it's got everything pretty much. It's got physical defense, special defense, really good balance of those things. It's got a good win con, both physically and specially. It's got great task, which is insane. It's got Entei, which is such a scary attacker. So is Kilowattrel on the special side. This is a really good mon as well, probably the best sticky webber. So yeah, it's just a good team. I don't have much bad things to say about it. The Unovan Melodies, big fan, I gotta say, is gonna be our team in 8 out of 10. And that brings us to our next team in line. And the next team will be Riptide. Where is Riptide? There he is. Riptide hailing from Australia, which is really cool. Has a team of Delphox, Greninja, Ursaluna, Bloodmoon, Petarant, Gudra Hisui, Screamtail, Raptor, Chestnut, Cryogonal, Sandslash, and Diglett. Alright. Yeah, I can see. I feel like I would rank this differently if I were to do it again. So Riptide has Delphox, Greninja, Ursaluna, Bloodmoon, Petarant, Gudra Hisui, Screamtail, Staraptor, Chestnut, Cryogonal, Sandslash, and Diglett. So yeah, first of all, once again, we go to the signature, which is the Delphox. Yeah, what can I say about Delphox? So first of all, the signature Delphox, which is apparently really solid. Many people are very high on it. I don't really know what to say about it. It's got decent bulk, decent speed. It is decently hard, especially, but it is always a special attacker. There's really not much else it can do. So the entire thing that makes it good is Terra and being able to hit decently hard and being able to Terra out of weaknesses and maybe be a fairy type, or I've seen it be fairy a lot. Um, which yeah, I guess it's a fine signature. It's an average signature in my opinion, which can do lots of good things. What I really like about this team it's got a very interesting composition. Like many of these mons are quite exotic, but they go really well with each other. Like Screamtail, Gutra, Hisui, Pecherant. I love these three together. They are really interesting. Also coupled with the Chestnut as well. The Screamtail is a really good piece for this team. This team really wants this Wish Passer for Gutra, for yeah, as I said, I've listed them. Also Ursaluna. So it's got a lot of bulk, especially on the physical side, but also the special side, like the physical side more so, but also on the special side. Like you even have stuff like Cryogonal, which is really bulky, and obviously the Gutra on the special side and the Screamtail. So yeah, you have lots of bulk. You've got Greninja, which is a really good mon offensively. You've got decent hazard options. And yeah, I just think that this Pecherant is really interesting on this team. I'm really excited to see what it does here because with the annoying move, it's gonna be really annoying against this team with all the bulk, and then you have this thing just spamming the poison stuff, and you have a steel type, you have a ground type, that poison type that you want to switch in to deal with it. Well, first of all, it's not that simple against this thing. That's something that will turn out as the time goes by. And then you also have Ursaluna, which just really has a field day with those types of mons. So yeah, that's I just think this team works really well together. It's got decent speed. It's got the Staraptor, which I also like, especially in this league because many teams are so flying weak that it's gonna be just a huge threat in many weeks and something that people are gonna have to prepare for with a choice scarf, with a choice band, Brave Bird, Reckless. It's just insane. It hits so hard and it's gonna do good work. Yeah, as I said, Greninja very versatile offensively. Can do lots of different things, can have two different abilities because it's not restricted with the Ash Greninja anymore. So yeah, I really like this team. It's really solid. One thing I will say, it does have only 9 mons because these I don't know I don't know what he was thinking slapping two more random ground types on there as his low tiers. Like I mean it's only 5 points I guess, but can't you find something better than Sand Slash? Like there is no scenario, you don't even have sand. What scenario in the world is there where you would run Sand Slash unless you maybe like need a spinner? Speaking of spinners, that's maybe like the weakness of this team, question mark, is maybe hazard removal. You have Staraptor, you have Cryogonal. That's really it. Like then you have Sand Slash, I guess. I'm not gonna count that because it's never gonna come. Yeah, Staraptor doesn't want to run Defog. It wants to run Choice Scarf and just smash stuff. So it's gonna be weak to rocks. And that's one thing I see that puts this team down a little bit. And then what it also doesn't do, it's also not gonna just set up and win. Like you can run maybe Calm Mind with one of these two things, but there's not really something that you are immediately scared of as it's setting up. So I guess that's something. But yeah, that's really nitpicky. I really like this team. It's really interesting. It's one of the most interesting teams, and I want to see every match this plays just because I really have high hopes for Pecherant on this. And yeah, these are just, you don't see Ursaluna that much, I think. Gutra, these are all interesting. Monster Raptor, I really love it. And that's why we are putting it. Where is Riptide? The hell, where's Riptide? Did I put him? Oh, I already put it here. Why did I do that? That's weird to me. Anyway, yep, Riptide goes here. Really good team. I like it. Moving on to the next one. Where are we at, by the way? Let me just look. We are at team number 5 now. And team number 5 in this league is gonna be Karakasa and the Grounded Gibbles. There we have it. We have the signature Dunsparce, Lopunny Mega Dragonite, Cinderace, Crocodile, Celebi, Vaporeon, Reggie, Eleki, Ribombee, Cursolagala, and Aurorus. So first things first, we have this signature, one of the best signatures you can get. It's Dadan Spars. You don't have to know how to make it work, but it can do so many things. It's so versatile. It can set up in a million different ways. It can be so bulky with Terra, you don't know what it's going to do. It can also put up stealth rocks. It can spread the yellow color disease. It can do so many things. It's so versatile. It even has boom burst on the special side as an attacking move, and yeah, it's just so annoying to deal with. It even can baton pass for slow pivot, being bulky. So yeah, really solid signature to start things off with. And then you go to the high tiers, and the high tiers are also pretty damn scary. We have Lopunny, we have Cinderace, Dragonite. They are all physical, but they are really scary at what they do. Cinderace, Lopunny, really good top end speed tiers here. That also pivot around with U-turn, and that's super annoying to deal with. Then rounding off the high speed tiers, you've really got incredible speed tiers on this team. If you want to count it as an actual mon, it's Regieleki. I don't really count it. I'm just gonna like not really talk about Regieleki much because it's not ever gonna be useful. So you pretty much only has 10 months, but it's still a solid team. This thing is also really fast. Can put up sticky webs on top of that. Can also be a special win con, which he really appreciates with all these physical mons. So yeah, this is just many good things to say about this team. I don't even know where to start. Yeah, Lopunny, it's really hard to switch into for many teams. Even if you can switch into it, it's gonna just pivot out. And like you want to switch into a fairy type, it's gonna pivot into Cinderace, which is really annoying to deal with for fairy types. I guess what you could say is he does struggle a little bit with fairy types in the sense that he does neither have a steel type nor a poison type. I think that's one thing you could hold against this team. But then again, look at this thing. It's gonna be really good with steel typing. It's also gonna be good with poison typing. So yeah, I don't think there's much to say about this team. Like in terms of downsides, what do you have? You have not the best removal in the world for hazards. Dragonite doesn't want to run defog. Regieleki is useless as hell, so maybe it could spin. There's not much opportunity cost apart from the opportunity cost to bringing it in the first place because you are gonna play with 5 months. Yeah, but apart from that, it's just solid. You've got the solid defense with Vaporeon, Celebi, even Dragonite is bulky. Then obviously you got the Dunsparce, yeah, which appreciate. Then all these bulky mons, they also pivot around. I don't know what to say. Even the low tiers, for being low tiers, like Aurorus is one of the best 2-point mons. This thing is really solid for 4 points, I guess. I'm not the biggest fan, but it can put up stealth rocks. It is really bulky. You just can't take any knockoffs. But yeah, it's just really scary. He's got good win con and Dragonite, which can like what are the downsides to this team? I don't really see many apart from Regieleki and the fact that maybe he doesn't have many scary special attackers. Celebi could be, and Ribombee could be a win con on a special side with Quiver Dance sometimes, especially with the fact that steel types are not that great against this team because you have these things threatening them and also the crocodile. So the highest tier mons threaten steel types. So maybe they are not going to come every week. And maybe then you will find opportunities to actually sweep with this thing. So yeah, it's just all around very solid team. I like it. Not much bad things to say about Caracasa's squad here. Or maybe I should focus more on the negative aspects to just justify the 2 points that are missing. Yeah, maybe, as I said, Regieleki, that should be enough on its own. And then you do have a little bit of a weakness to toxic spikes, I would say, on this team, because the removal isn't great, as I said before, with Eleki and Dragonite. Yeah, nothing, like most of this is grounded. And yeah, the opportunity cost to running heavy duty boots, like you can always argue, well, does it really matter in a time where you have boots? And I will always say, yeah, that definitely does matter, because you have, like, not having an item apart from boots is huge opportunity cost. Like, items are huge in this game, and yeah, that's something to keep in mind. He is weak to toxic spikes. So yeah, I mean, every team has weaknesses. This is still a really solid one, and it is gonna be our number 4 team. No, that's not true. There are still some teams missing here. All right, moving on to the next one. This is, what are we at? We are at number 5. This was our number 5 team, and our number 4 team is next, and it is gonna be, where do we have him? Our newcomer ACS, coaching the Ponderous Looks, and he's got Orbital as a signature. We have Excalibur, Celesteela, Manaphy, Espathra, Cerulege, Weezing-Galar, Hypnotop, Toadscruel, Grafai, and Dusclops. And yeah, what I noticed about this team is, first of all, the signature. Once again, I really like this because it is very versatile. It can do many different things. Obviously, the first thing you notice is it does set up sticky webs potentially. And yeah, this is just, sticky webs are insane coupled with Manaphy. Like, Manaphy under sticky webs is one of the scariest things you can ever encounter. So that as a on its own as a threat is really good. It will Terra out of its terrible typing. It can set up in many different ways. It also, I think, it can also run defog. It can also U-turn, I think. So many different things that Orbital can do, and that makes it one of the better signatures. And yeah, I really like it. Moving on to things I also really like are these high tiers. These high tiers are insane. Manatee at 15 points with Take Heart, with Tail Glow. It's so scary. It has all its moves available, and that makes it a huge threat. So is Celesteela. It's a great mono draft. I really love it. I didn't like it so much in the past, but now that I've used it in some prior season, yeah, it's just, you just gotta know how to play with it, and then it's gonna be really great. And obviously, Excalibur is one of the best win cons you can ever have. So strong, and yeah, these two also complement each other's weaknesses quite well. So I really like this high tier trio coupled with the signature. Like, this is a very good top 4. And this entire team has many good win cons, many good scary mons like Cerulege as well. Espathra, I guess. Maybe it won't be your primary focus on this team. So maybe you can sweep with it easier because the opponent is not always going to have good dark types to deal with it. And yeah, that's a little bit weird. Like, I don't see the Espathra as being a great fit, but it could still work, I guess, on this team because you have other threats to also worry about. Maybe it will do fine. And then you've got a bunch of random stuff that's a little more bulky defensive with Wheezing, Toadscruel. Both of them don't really have recovery. And yeah, the Hitmontop as well. We've already seen in his first game that it can also be quite offensive. So yeah, just a solid team all around. One of the downsides to this team, once again, it is quite flying weak. You only have one resist in Celesteela, which is a decent resist. It's a good resist, but given the fact that he has so many monsters that are just weak to flying, this thing, this thing as well. I guess some of them are low tiers, so it doesn't matter that much. But yeah, just having a good neutral move to spam. Many flying types do have a fire type coverage move as well. So yeah, that's something that many teams are struggling with in this league, and this team does just the same. I also think a Wish supporter would have been nice with this team. Many of these mons, Manaphy, Celesteela, Weezing, Hitmontop, this thing, they all would really appreciate, even this thing, would appreciate Wish support. And that's something that I'm missing here a little bit. He also has a pretty big ghost weakness. His only ghost resist is Grafii, which is not gonna come most of the time. So a lot of weeks he is gonna be not forced, but he's gonna wanna Terra into something that can deal with ghost types. So I guess Terra Dark is a pretty good Terra type for this thing. So yeah, that makes sense too. Yeah, it's just a really good team all around. It is not the fastest team, I will say that. Like, let's look at the speeds. We have Grafii, we have this thing with speed boost. But yeah, other than that, you just have Manaphy at base 100, and then you are getting in really slow territory already. So yeah, the webs are gonna be there a lot of the time to mitigate that. He has answers to all his weaknesses. It is a really solid team. I really like it. And that is why we are gonna put it right at the top here of the 8-point mons. All right. And that brings us to our top 3, with number 3 being our newcomer to the league, Coach Wild, and the quintessential Quagsires. So, look at this team. We got Diancie, we got Dragapult, Landorus, Therian, Rotom-Heat, Pidgeot, Mega, Amoonguss, Blastoise, Bronzong, Ambipom, Hitmonchan, and Claydol. So, this team is so scary with the high tiers. Dragapult and Lando T on the same team. Jesus Christ. You got Dragapult, which is kind of annoyed by most steel types, by many steel types and fairy types. And then you have just the ability to go Lando on the steel types or Rotom on the fairy types. And you also have Amoonguss, which means you just don't care about any fairy types ever, to switch into them. So yeah, I really like this. This is so strong, so scary. You got Diancie as a signature. It's very popular as a signature. Many people like it. I'm not the biggest fan myself, but I definitely can see how it would be decent just because it can set up rocks. It can also set up in some ways. It can Calm Mind, it can rock polish. With Terra Fairy, it becomes really strong. I do think you wanna be Terra Fairy on this team a lot of the time. I really think the Fairy typing goes well with it. It loses the stupid rock typing, and it gains a really strong step while keeping its step on the Diamond Storm. So yeah, it's really nice. I guess you, as I said, can do many things that are very useful. I think the fact that it doesn't have recovery is a little bit annoying. But then again, if it would have recovery, it wouldn't be so cheap. So yeah, it's just solid. I don't really know. I would have to go over to my notes to see what I had to say badly about this team. Oh yeah, I did say that he does have a big speed gap at one point. Like his team is really fast and the speed is really good. You start with Dragapult really fast, then you go to Pidgeot, which is so gonna be so good in this league where so many teams are flying weak. That's gonna be huge for him. And then you go to Ambipom, and after that, what's next? I think next is Landorus, and that is really a big gap. That means that anyone that is in the 110 speed tier or 105 speed tier can just run the attack or special attack boosting nature with zero opportunity cost because the next mon that you want to outspeed is Lando, which you can do with max speed. So by running the attack boosting nature. So yeah, that's I guess a little. That's not ideal, but I mean, yeah, that's more nitpicky. He does have he does have a bit of a weakness to psychic types. I gotta say that. That's gonna be an issue that's more likely to come into play and be really annoying because his only resists are these lower-ish tiers in Bronzong and Claydol. So he's gonna be forced to bring one of them sometimes, or when he really doesn't want to, because he doesn't have a dark type and he doesn't have another resist to psychic. So that's a little uncomfortable, I would say. Maybe. But yeah, as I said, like back to the positives, you have really good hazard options. You have really good removal. You have many options for removal. You have really good win cons. You are really strong offensively. Your team goes really, like, it all makes sense. It goes so well with each other. As I said before, like Dragapult, Lando, Diancie, Rotom. What a good pairing. What a good pairing. Then you got the pivot. You pivot around quite a bit. I don't know if this gets baton pass, but even if it doesn't, like these things U-turn, this thing volt switches, this thing can flip turn if it wants to. This thing can also U-turn. To bring in the Pidgeot, to bring in all these hitters. It's just a really solid team. There's not much bad to say about it, and that's why this will be our first 9 out of 10 straight up insane team. Very good. I like it. Would love to play with it. And this will be our number 3. But we have 2 teams that I've found even better than this. And the first one being our number 2, and that also reveals our number 1 at the same time. Number 2 in this league will be Venom. And the Cleveland Cavaliers with this fresh new logo that I chose for him because he doesn't have a logo of his own, sadly. But yeah. We do look at this team. We have Rotom Frost, Darkrai, Gouging Fire, Skarmory, Ninetales, Alola, Mienshao, Tentacruel, Mimikyu, Sceptile, Mega, Scyther, and Smeargle. All right, so where should I begin? Let's go with the signature as always. Rotom is a good signature in the sense that it has pretty bad typing, which it can lose with the Terra. And it can defog, it can pivot, so it fits some roles that can make it useful every week. It also is so scary because we know that obviously ice and electric is a famous step combo to begin with, and it gets compounded by the only other thing that is even more broken with ice moves than electric types is ground types. If you Terra Ground with this thing, you have a Levitate Ground Mon, which has a triple step combo of ice, electric, and ground, and that is so insane. It also loses the Rock's weakness in favor of a Rock's resist with the defog. That's like, it's gonna be forced to go ground type many weeks because he doesn't have a ground type on his team other than this. But man, ground type is so good on this thing, and yeah, that's gonna be show many weeks. And then we've got Darkrai, Gouging Fire, insane high tier combo here. Darkrai so fast, it's strong. It's been an Uber for a long time. If you can ever put some stuff to sleep, which I think this thing can still run Hypnosis, right? And this thing also has Hypnosis if it really wanted to. So yeah, it's that's gonna be a huge threat. Then you got this just classic Wincon, really bulky, really strong, insane step combo with Fire and Dragon. Goes so well together. And yeah, that's just an insane one. What a scary high tier combo. Then you got the Skarmory, which is a decent pairing with the Tentacruel. They are both weak to electric type moves. That's why I think if you wanna go with Rotom here, you will end up running it as a ground type many times, which would really make this a solid, a more than solid combo of defensive mons. You also have your removal and your hazard setting just covered with these things. You can run Toxic Spikes, Stealth Rocks, Defog, Rapid Spin. That's like, it's all covered. You got a really solid Scarfer in Mienshaw, one of the best Scarfers in the game. You got this thing, which is so good on this team. This is such a good piece because these screens with these mons, oh, that's going to be insane. I really like so much about this team. Mimikyu, another good piece that fits really well because once again, you got screens, you got setup. It fits really well typing wise. Oh man, I don't know what to say. This team doesn't have many weaknesses. You got this quote unquote low tier, which is insanely fast, even making this team more fast than it already is with Darkrai, with this thing, with Ninetales. You've got this thing for priority. Good Scarfer, insanely fast team. You got Smeargle for some more hazard shenanigans, or I don't know what else. I mean, in theory, it's really versatile. Um, yeah, just this team is insane. It's one of the best teams in the league. I really love it. One thing I will say, which as always, you are gonna find some things to complain about. It does have a pretty bad rock weakness, or more accurately, I would say stealth rock's weakness. Because obviously you can run heavy duty boots on this, but some of the stuff that is rocks weak, like Skyther, like this thing, and also this thing can run boots, but these two things, for example, they don't really want to run heavy duty boots because they want to either have their thing to make the screens last longer, and this thing likes either Choice Scarf or Eviolite. So yeah, they are gonna be annoyed when rocks are on the field. But yeah, I mean, are rocks gonna be on the field? You have this thing that's gonna come every week that can remove, this thing can remove, this thing can remove, and they are really solid removers as well. So it's gonna be hard to have rocks up on the field. And but yeah, if you do, that's gonna be a big advantage. But yeah, I mean, these are also quite low tier. And yeah, I don't know. I don't know what to say. There is not much to complain about this team. It's really good. It's really solid. It's scary. It's got good defense. It's got good offense. If it's got thought behind it. Like it all works together well. And I'm a huge fan, and I can't wait to see how Venom is gonna do with this team. It's gonna be our number one team. Number one. Maybe it should be our number one team. That's arguable. But I chose someone else to be our number one team, and that is the Scary Smoliv, our season 8 runner-up in the Division 2. Let me find the old Smoliv. Where are you? There we are with the Scary Smoliv. Oh boy, this team is great. We have the signature, which is Sinischa, which is our reigning Division 1 winning signature. Is this even the right sprite for Sinischa? Isn't this Poltergeist? Something is wrong here. I'm confused. I shouldn't. Like I'm confused. Anyway, Sinischa is our reigning Division 1 winning mon. Then we got Iron Valiant, one of the scariest mons, and Garchomp coupled with it, and Zapdos coupled with it. What an insane trio of high tiers. You go down to Glimora, which is really solid for the hazard game, and also goes well typing wise with these things. You got a very good cheap pickup in Metagross. I think Metagross should move up next season. We kind of missed that with the new moves it got with knockoff Heavy Slam. That's like really solid steel type that will set up hazards as well and just do stuff. Then you got this is such a good piece and also so much value. Why is this thing 9 points? We'll definitely move that up in the future as well. Wish Passer, Bulky Water, Pivot, Alamomola. This is so good. Passing wishes into Garchomp, into Metagross, even into this thing, which is bulky as well. Makes so much sense on this team. With the regenerator, it can afford to pass wishes with the flip turn as well. So yeah, you gotta always watch out with some. You don't want to end up being set up fodder, but yeah, apart from that, it's just so good with all these other mons, and it's gonna make their lives so much easier by bringing them in with pivoting. Then you got Zapdos, which also goes so well with these two because it also pivots around for them. When it lures in steel ground types, it doesn't matter that much because you have the Aloe, which can pivot on most of those. You also have a grass type signature, obviously, which is going to make your life easier. Talonflame, another one that can remove stuff. You only have these two as removal, but they are really good removal, especially Zapdos. It's one of the best defoggers you can have. So yeah, this team just like tell me where does this team have weaknesses? Once again, I have to go to the notes to see what the weaknesses were that I saw about with this team. Yeah, also looking at its speed tiers are also really solid. You have Talonflame, then you go to Iron Valiant, then you got Garchomp just beating the 100 types, then you got this at exactly 100. And yeah, it just goes down really well. Even Ursaring is a really good mon for 4 points. He got so much value out of the lower tiers, man. Aloe, Metagross, Talonflame, Ursaring, these are great low tiers. And he's got great high tiers. And he's got a good signature. It all works well together. He's got hazards. He's got everything. It's insane. I don't know how you want to deal with this team. Yeah, it's really crazy. So let's go to some of the quote unquote weaknesses. So one thing that is true about this team is that the defense is quite physically oriented for the most part. I think, I don't know, is this thing specially bulky? I don't think so. Yeah, this thing is really frail. This thing is more physically bulky. This thing can run special defense, but yeah, all these things are not that specially bulky. So I think special defense, you end up with Sliggoo, which doesn't really count as being specially bulky. So yeah, that's maybe the only weakness this team. And then I've written down that Sinistra is a signature I'm not the biggest fan, which I'm not, but I can admit that it's really scary with Calm Mind, and you don't know what it's gonna terra into. So yeah, definitely can do work, and it just makes sense with this team. And I want to congratulate the Scary Smoliv for getting this team, and hope that he can make the most of it. I bet it's gonna be fun prepping with this team week after week. Yeah, so many. Can't wait to see how this team does. Yeah, as I said, many great teams in this league. I didn't really find any really bad ones, and many of them are just great. This is gonna be your final tier list. And yeah, that's it. I hope you enjoyed it. And I hope the other guys were gonna make a. And yeah, I hope you enjoyed it. And with that, we will finally end this. And these have been your Season 10 Power Rankings. And see you in the next one.